The evolution of DCC sound has well and truly brought the hobby of model railways, without doubt, into the 21st century. Many of you who have dabbled somewhat with DCC sound decoders will be familiar with one of these, the Locksound V4.0 from ESU. If there is one criticism to be made with these sound decoders, it would be on the price front. If you're out and about looking to purchase one, you're not going to get an awful lot of change out of £100, and that's before you've even forked out on a digital command and control station, and for a reasonable one of those you're going to be looking around the £200 mark. So you can understand why many people have ignored DCC altogether. But what if a solution existed to put sound in your locomotives and you didn't need to fork out on a hefty, expensive digital command centre and one of these expensive decoders? Well, as it happens, a solution does exist, thanks to the company called Traintech. And this little gem in here is the SFX10 sound decoder module. And in this practical tried and tested, we shall be taking a look at just what it can do. We'll be giving this a test in nothing else other than the 01, which came out from Hornby last year, and a full review appeared in the May 2013 edition of BRM. All you need to do to install one of these decoders, evidently, is take the locomotive out of its box, and you will note that the little chip itself is not going to be able to fit inside the boiler housing itself. So there's only one place where we can fit this inside this 01, and that is in the tender. To do that, we're going to need to take the tender apart, and for that I have this handy little set of miniature screwdrivers. I'm just going to separate the tender and start unscrewing. Now that the screw is out, I'm just going to prise out this small plug with the flat screwdriver either side. And there we have it. Now that the locomotive's been separated, what I'm going to do is change over for a Phillips screwdriver, and I'm going to take out two small screws which are situated just in front of the centre axle on the tender. This will allow us to separate the chassis of the tender from the body. Just giving the tender a quick tap now to release the screws, and off comes the body. This little DCC blanking plug is going to need to be removed in addition to this housing, which is made of metal, presumably to weigh down the tender, and then we can get round to installing our little chip, and hopefully we shall have sound in our locomotive. Now, the little blanking plug isn't too much of a problem, that's soon removed, and that will reveal these two screws which need to be removed. Now, if you were to install a DCC sound chip such as this one, then you would keep this evidently as it is. But we don't want to do that. We need to make room for this little chip here, and because it's larger than the ESU chip, well, we're going to have to accommodate and make some more room. And don't forget that in order to make this work on DC, you will need to return this blanking plug back in its little socket again. You might think that that was it, but no, there's just one more, and that is hidden under this little bit of sticky tape. Pulling it back will reveal it, and hopefully after removing this we should be able to free the bit of metal. And then we just remove this little bit here carefully, and then that will be able to slide off here. And don't forget, I've returned that all-important blanking plug back into place. Now, to avoid any shorts when we do install the little sound chip, what I have here is a very small piece of gaffer tape, and this is just going to make sure that none of the wires really have any opportunity to short out. So, what do you get for your money? Well, a little bit of tube, a 3-volt 2032 style battery, and the sound chip. Now, this is very clever how Traintech have designed this. The sensor which detects movement of your locomotive is actually what will start playing the sound, and the sound that is played, and you'll hear this later on, is amplified with this little piece of rubber tube. This costs you approximately £40, correct at the current time, but please note that this is half the price of another equivalent decoder which would ordinarily be DCC, and well, you can equip 2 locomotives for the price of 1. Now, in order to be able to fit the other chip in, we're going to need to glue this down somewhat. Make sure that all those wires don't get in the way, and well, I've got a little bit of multi-purpose U-Hoo glue here. I'm just going to take the top off and be careful not to spill it all over the place. Just a little dab on the bottom of plug there, and then we're going to place this face down on the tender. Now, make sure you don't get too much glue on it, because if you do want to change and go back to DCC in the future, then you'll be able to remove it easily. Now, Hornby intended this to be fitted with a speaker anyway, and they've left a little hole there with a little grill mesh so that the sound can pass through. All we're going to do is replace it with this, and we're just going to fit this little tube over the top here. And you'll be able to see that obviously we're not going to be able to use it at its full length, so we're going to need to cut it down somewhat in height. Now, there's a reason why you've got to fit this tube, because the sound is much better when one of these tubes is fitted over the speaker, and indeed Traintech recommend that you fit this, if possible, at its full length in order to obtain the best quality of sound reproduction. The keen-eyed of you will have noticed that the sensor which detects movement is actually fitted to a wire. Because it's detecting movement, hence vibration, the speaker itself will create a certain amount of movement, and I'm sure that Traintech throughout testing have done this for a reason. It would set itself off by itself and continuous loop of sound, and that's not much good for what we want, so hence the wire. This wire will not really need to touch the speaker itself. Make sure that that's away from the speaker. However, it would be handy if it did touch the body side of the model. We just want to make sure that everything does actually fit inside the tender snugly as it should do. Well, it's not going to be able to shut because where I glued the chip is in the way. However, I have found out that by sticking it in place in an upright position just behind these two little screw locations here, hopefully we should be able to get the top sitting flush as it should be. Now this is being situated in its new location, we'll still have room for the Traintech chip. I'll just get that. Now, when you fit the battery, you need to make sure that the plus sign is facing upwards. Just put it in the little chip itself, and of course you will get the sound because we've just had a bit of movement. Now I'm just going to get all of this screwed back together, and we'll catch up in a bit when it's coupled to the locomotive, and we'll be able to see what this thing can actually do. With our trusty SFX10 sound chip installed from Traintech, let's see what this thing can do. So there you have it, a demonstration of Traintech's SFX10 sound chip. If you are on a budget and you're looking to equip some of your locomotives with sound and you aren't a DCC convert, this might just be in your league. You can even hear at some points the fireman throw a few shovels of coal into the firebox, and well, there you have it. But just before we go, let's give this one final test on our rolling road and see what this thing can do at speed.